Did Alabama lay out the blueprint to stop Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt?
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Happy Monday. Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. I certainly appreciate it. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Now, got a lot to talk about here. It's it's the Monday after Bama. The dust is settled. We've brushed ourselves off. It's time to turn the page, but we do have to figure out what the lessons are from this game. We have to talk about what we learned, what we gathered, what we took away, and wondering what's the deal going forward. So, of course, trash talking can derail even the trash talker sometimes. Did Diego Pavia, did he get too big for himself? Ty Simpson was elite. Going to talk about that. The 2-minute defense. Is there one to talk about? Turnovers. And of course, Vanderbilt doing the uncharacteristic thing and panicking a little bit with their game plan. Let's talk there, because I feel like that's kind of the blueprint now. I feel like Alabama, I almost feel like, and this is going to be something that Vanderbilt's going to have to fight against now, but I think Vanderbilt laid out the plan to stop Diego Pavia, to neutralize this offense. Now, that's football. That's always going to happen. This happens to a lot of different teams. This happens in a lot of different situations. Great coaches, elite coaches, figure out a way to navigate around it. The bad ones try to plow right through it and oftentimes can't. Most of the time can't. And the good ones will hit some roadblocks, but they'll find their way around it somehow, some way. So we're going to find out really quickly where Clark Lea is, because I think this is the first time that they've really run into this. Like, I know a little bit last year. I think a lot of that was just they got run down, they got injuries, they got tired, all that stuff. Like, I think last year that we could attribute last year's slide to that. Now, this year, still early enough. You're still relatively healthy. You got a lot. You got everything out in front of you. Now is going to be the true test of this coaching staff. Can they adjust? Can they do? So one of the things I did not like in this game, and it felt like they panicked. Okay. And I've never seen Clark Lea, Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, I guess you could say Steve Gregory. I've never seen them do this. Okay. Offensively, Diego Pavia had an awful game. Too much distraction. He was too focused on trash talking. He was too focused on what the student section was saying. I'm gonna come back to that later. But I want to talk about how Jerry Kill and Tim Beck, they went away from what makes Vandy dangerous. I thought they panicked a bit after Diego fumbled inside the 10. I mean, you're still ahead at that point. And they go down and they tie the game, but you're still locked in a really, really tight contest. And I felt like you could see them hit the panic button a little bit. And what happened throughout the course of the game is I think they felt, and even though it was tied, they were only down 3 for a lot of it, for a lot of the second half. Like, it was tight the whole way, and it felt like they were trying to claw back from a two touchdown deficit. I think they went to the passing game early. It felt like Diego Pavia went into hero ball mode. I felt like he was trying to throw the ball into windows he had no business throwing the ball into. Hence the second turnover, the interception in the red zone. That was an ill-advised throw. Should not have made that 100%. But I feel like when you rush for 113 yards in the first quarter, like I feel like you could, and you're up, and then you fumble, and then they tie it. I feel like you could still kind of go to that. I feel like, I felt like we were missing an element to this offense, the element that made this offense score at a clip of 49 points per game. and gain almost 500 yards of total offense per game. Like it was missing those dynamic elements, pre-snap movements and things. I felt like they got very vanilla, very conservative, because they almost became paralyzed with fear on the turnover. And maybe they saw something in Diego that prompted that. Maybe they were afraid that he was going to just go out on his own and try to play hero ball, which I think he eventually tried. I think he eventually did. But like, where's all the jet sweeps? Where's all the, I really love the shovel pass. And it was good right before, and I think they regained it a little bit right there before halftime when they scored that touchdown. And then when we came back out of halftime, it was just, it was head scratching. I was trying to figure out, okay, we did 3 straight dropbacks, several drives in a row, and most of them went 3 and out. Like I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And then once they got a sense of urgency, like I think Bama's defense loosened up to try not to give the big play, and then they ended up making a big play themselves. So it's kind of a blueprint. Like if you can get Diego Pavia rattled, which is a hard thing to do, but if you can get him rattled, I feel like you can turn him over a couple of times, and then he's going to try to get the game back himself. He's going to try to play hero ball, like I said, and he's going to try to get the game back himself. He's going to try to lead and try to do too much and try to do everything for the team, and that usually ends up hurting the team. So it's a weird scenario of like, okay, if you can shut down the edges, if you can clog things up the middle, you can almost kind of bait Diego Pavia into pulling the ball and then just kind of spy and come down. That's what Alabama did. They had their star guy. They kind of spied him, and they kind of gained a tendency of where they were running the ball, and they just sat that guy back and basically they baited him into pulling the ball. Like that 4th and 1 where he got stuffed at the line of scrimmage, he should have just gave that. And he should have just fell forward or even just took it himself and just rammed the ball forward for 6 inches. Like, I think you keep that drive alive. I think maybe not. I don't know. But there was a chance you could have turned the tide on that game. And then there's a chance you could have really done some damage there and maybe went down and scored, or at least got 3 points or something. But you get stuffed on 4th and 1 because you just try to make a play. It's 6 inches and you're running laterally trying to get the edge on a guy that you have no shot at getting the edge on because A, he has leverage, and B, he's faster than you anyway. So why not just try to bury yourself into the pile? Because like you're a tough runner, just slam forward and get that half a yard and get the first down and live to fight another day, get another set of downs, and maybe set yourself up for a field goal at the worst case scenario. Because I think they were driving, and I think if you get that momentum a little bit, maybe you can move the ball into field goal territory and worst case scenario get the field goal. But the way Vanderbilt was running it, it just early on they should have stayed with that momentum, and I feel like they got out of their game plan too soon because the game was still well within reach midway through the 3rd quarter, into the late 4th quarter. Like it was a 6-point game. Like, where's the motions? Where's all the stuff that makes your offense dangerous? That's what and I know a lot of Vanderbilt fans probably feel that same way. Where is all of that? Like, I felt like that was just gone. And what was it, a psychological thing? Was it because you felt like your defense was struggling against Ty Simpson, that you felt like you had to get quick strikes or you weren't going to win? Did you feel like Diego Pavia just didn't have it? Did they have a great game plan that you just couldn't adjust? Like, all those things are concerning, but it's just like, okay, well, what happened in the 1st quarter? Why were you able to get them? Why were you able to gash them for 113 yards and score a touchdown on a long run? Like, how were you able to do that? How were you able to get the ball down in scoring position to where Diego Pavia fumbled? How were you able to move the ball down the field? Those are questions that need to be asked, because it's those things that make you dangerous. Coaches are going to study how Alabama got Vanderbilt to get out of that. Brian Kelly's going to be studying how they got out of that. Brian Kelly was watching this game, but it's how can you get them into those situations? Do you crowd the line of scrimmage? Do you stretch it out? Do you bait Diego Pavia into pulling? Do you sell out against the dive and just hope that Diego Pavia pulls it and have a guy that's athletically enough to be able to take care of him? Because throughout the rest of the schedule, there's going to be people that do. So what you're going to have to do, if you're Vanderbilt, you're going to have to find answers to those problems. You're going to have to, this week in the bye week, you're going to have to start creating those problems in practice, because that's going to be something you're going to have to fight. Alabama's defensive game plan from the second quarter on, the adjustments that they made, Kane Womack did a phenomenal job. They were outcoached. They were simply outcoached. They were out, and then they became outmatched because they just got momentum, got fired up. And then once halftime hit and they tied it up real quick, that was all she wrote, man. But this offense is not built to sling it around the yard, and they have to know that. And they have to find those answers when their original answers and their original items are taken away. They have to figure out, okay, what's next? How can we maintain what we do and try to reopen the things that we like to do and our must-haves? And you just got to find a ways around that, because now the blueprint's out there. It's out there. How to stop Vanderbilt is out there. Right? They did a good job coming into the season on developing Diego Pavia's passing game. Obviously, it's not well enough. Obviously, these wide receivers did not create enough separation. It's just how do you now get them involved? How do you create those opportunities? How do you create scoring opportunities? How do you create ball control opportunities? How are you going to attack an athletic defense? LSU is going to bring one to town on the week after next. How are you gonna manage against that? Because they're gonna drop somebody down. They're gonna spy Diego Pavia, and they're gonna make sure he doesn't beat him. So Junior Sherrill, how do you get separation? Catch the ball when it comes to you. Eli Stowers has got to have a great game too. So we're going to continue to answer those questions. That's just kind of what we learned. We learned that Bama, throughout the blueprint to this offense, they turned Tim Beck and Jerry Kill vanilla. They panicked. And I don't think they needed to, and that's disappointing. But hey, everything's still in front of you. Everything's still there. Turnovers kill momentum, and they certainly did on this occasion. The turnovers are fixable. It's hero ball on the interception. You can't make that decision. You can't make that throw in that scenario. I know you want to go to Eli. I know that's your favorite target, and I know you like throwing over the middle. Alabama knew that. That's just ill-advised. And then the fumble, just got to have better ball security going down. The guy came in and made a great play, punched the ball out, and Diego Pavia fumbled it. I mean, he couldn't hold on to it. It was close whether or not he was down. He wasn't. And turnover, momentum, it pretty much sent the coaching staff into their shell, and they never really came out. They peeked their head out occasionally, but for the most part, they never really came out. And that's got to be something that I think during this bye week, you got to have a long, hard look at. Okay, what are we doing offensively? How are we going to counter when they stop this? What are we going to do when they stop that? How are we going to get them to stop this so that we can do this? Like those are the chess match things that Vanderbilt had been so good at until Saturday against Bama. Then it just felt like they were it just felt like they were coaching with fear, and it just felt like they were just trying not to lose and trying not to have the catastrophic play. Instead, you just go do what you do, and you just stick. What they did great against South Carolina's defense is they just stuck to what they did. They stuck to what they did. Even when it was tight, they stuck to what they did, and they wore them down. They had a chance to do that against Alabama because Alabama didn't have any answers in the first quarter. So there you go. I'm going to talk about the 2-minute defense coming up next. I don't even know if it exists enough to talk about it, but we're going to talk about what happened in that situation. But first, I want to tell you about Peloton, because Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps. It suggests real weights and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Who wouldn't want that? The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. Just flip that screen right on around, and you're ready to go, man. Efficiency at its finest. So the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. And Peloton, if you got a couple extra bikes too, if you want to drop them off at my house, or just one, if one falls off the truck in front of my driveway, I'll hang on to it for you. Keep it there, safekeeping. But anyway, Peloton is for you. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Locked On SEC, place to go. If you need a second listen, Chris Gordy, phenomenal job and covering the entire conference. He does a great job doing that. So let's talk about the 2-minute defense. I want to talk about that for a second. Because, and I'm going to get to Ty Simpson in a minute, but the 2-minute defense wasn't even terrible. You know why it wasn't terrible? Wasn't awful, wasn't putrid? Because it didn't exist for the second week in a row. So for something to be terrible, it has to exist. And I felt like we were one step away from Bama doing their 2-minute drive against Dare. Like I felt like Bama would have had a lesser shot at scoring if we just didn't put any defenders out there. Like they would have dropped a couple of things and they would have like maybe turned it over on downs themselves. Like I don't know. It was, in all seriousness, it was awful. And it was awful against Utah State. And I don't know what happens. I don't know if it's just like you get too conservative, like prevent D, where you don't want to let anything over the top. And I get it. You don't want to play press coverage in that type of situation, but I still think you got to have some semblance of pressure, whether it's in the secondary or coming at the quarterback or something. Like you got to make these guys feel not comfortable coming off the line of scrimmage. Like there was a few series here and there sprinkled, and there was a few plays sprinkled throughout the game where I thought defense played brilliantly. They jammed receivers. They made it tough for him. They flushed Ty Simpson, and even on his first touchdown pass to Ryan Williams, like you flushed Ty Simpson. You have a chance to sack him, but you didn't break down, and he got up under and he made a laser beam throw to Ryan Williams. Like he made a phenomenal play there, but it just like I don't know what's got to happen. And that's something that they've got to figure out inside the building. Like if they want to pay me to figure it out, I will. But you just got to play a little bit tighter. I'm not saying you got to play press coverage. I'm not saying you got to blitz 8 or whatever. Like I'm just saying you have to create a more. I guess you got to give them a little more adversity coming off the line of scrimmage. You've got to interfere with their ability to get off a clean release. You've got to be in some throwing lanes. You've got to mess up the rhythm. You've got to make it a muddy picture for him, because in those scenarios you have to, there's a sense of like playing deep and forcing them to inch their way down the field. But there's also a sense of you play too far off and you give too much of a cushion, they can rip off chunk plays, which is what they did. He just sat back there, got in a rhythm, and just ripped off 17, 20, and just got right on down. Like I think it was 3 or 4 plays, like something really quick. So you have to, for the 2-minute drill, you have to figure out, like Ty Simpson is too good for you to not either put coverage pressure on him and force him to throw in a tight window. And if he makes the throw, so be it, make him be elite. There's got to be, you've got to blanket those guys a little better. Like you can give them a little bit of cushion. You can give them a 5-yard hitch, come down and tackle and make them nickel and dime you down the field, because they had no timeouts. And they were like, if you force them to go 5-6 yards at a time, like that's fine. And just, and make it really tough for him to go over the top. So there's ways to do that, and you're athletically gifted enough to do that. You're smart enough as a defensive guy to do that. It's just one of those frontiers that you haven't crossed yet. And Utah State, they got you in a blender. Bama got you in a blender, the 2-minute drill. It's just that's just got to get better. I don't know what all the answers are, but I do know that whatever answers you're currently putting out there is not. And it's not personnel. There's not somebody that I'm like, get him off the field or get him off the field. Like, the personnel is plenty good enough to play elite defense. The personnel is fine. I think the calls were just off. It's just something that I just don't think they figured out yet. That's fine. I mean, they're going to figure it out. They got the bye week, but like, something that's a red flag, man. Like, you give a team the ball in 2 minutes, it's almost like a guaranteed touchdown. So that was concerning coming out of that game, and that I just felt like why are we so bad at this? Like, what? Like, we're good at everything else. Maybe not Saturday. We weren't good at a ton except for the first quarter, but we just didn't execute very well. But why are we so bad? Why are we significantly worse, like light years worse at 2-minute defense than we are at regular defense? Regular defense, I thought we held our own for the most part against an elite quarterback. Like, I felt like he had to work hard. We sacked him 4 times. We picked him off. We made, Jam Miller ripped off some big runs, but like, I think we made it difficult on him in a lot of occasions. Like, I think there was a lot of good things this defense did, but man, I just don't understand the 2-minute. I really don't. I really, really don't. Ty Simpson's elite, man. And you can't take that away from him. He's just an elite player. And they had no answers. Jam Miller, getting him back, man, that's just big, man. They were put in a blender because of those 2 guys, and probably caused point number 2 because, and when I say point number 2, it was when I'm saying, as Jerry Kill and Tim Beck went away from what makes Vandy dangerous, they panicked after Diego fumbled because they felt like they weren't going to be able to keep up with Alabama and Ty Simpson. And it's exactly what Vanderbilt did to Alabama a year ago. It's the same exact thing they did to Georgia a week prior. Like, it was the exact same game plan. They held the ball, and that's what you got to do. Keep Pavia off the field. So, speaking of Diego Pavia, the trash talk, the pregame antics, all that, I'm going to talk about that. We're going to end the show next. First, I want to talk about Square because, man, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are places that become an extension of home, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, whether it's dedicated to Vandy, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives, man. And take this for an example. Mas Taco. This is probably my favorite spot in East Nashville. I love Mas Taco, the best fish taco of all time. I get 3 fish tacos, a lote, and a Jarritos. And it is absolutely amazing. I've been going there for years. And throw a little bit of lime juice on there. There's some, it's just the way they dress it up, man. And it just really, truly feels like home. It feels authentic. It's just a good vibe, man. The line's always long. The people are always friendly. There's people with a lot to say. I mean, it is a special place, man. And Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, we'll see you in the neighborhood. Also, I want to talk about FanDuel, man. FanDuel's fun. The NFL season's raging on here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet. You put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What better way to do it than to use it on some parlays, same game parlays, live betting. I did some live betting today on some of these NFL games. I went 3 for 3. You can bet some player props. You can do all kind of things in the app. It makes football even more exciting, like that Browns game. If you want to watch a Cleveland Browns game, but it's just too boring to watch because the Cleveland Browns are terrible, or you want to watch the Titans like throw a few bucks on it, man. Makes it interesting. I did that and it made the game more enjoyable. So if you're a casual fan or you love diving the stats, it does not matter. FanDuel makes game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Now, wrapping up the show here, Locked On Vandy. Thanks for joining us at Locked On Vandy social media platforms. Thank you for I had a really, really stellar week last week with views and engagements. So thank you. And some of that, and a lot of that was Bama fans too as well. And they helped the cause. So thank you for that. But here's a topic that I think all of us are eager to talk about, because I think it did have a significant impact on the game. And I think you saw a side of Diego Pavia where I think maybe his celebrity had gotten a little too big. Like the Johnny Manziel thing, it just didn't make sense for him to do that. The whole interactions with the Alabama student section, which I'm sure they were saying some pretty rude stuff. But you just can't grab it. You just can't grab your junk. You just can't do that. You can't grab your crotch. That's kind of a vulgar gesture. You can do a lot of different things. I've seen every quarterback under the sun in the SEC, because all SEC student sections are like this. They come after you. They say personal stuff. They say out-of-pocket stuff. No telling what they're saying. It can get bad. But there's been a lot of quarterbacks that they'll gesture, they'll interact, but like it's not that. And the last person I know that did that, dang, spit it out, was Baker Mayfield. He did it against when they were playing against Kansas, and it wasn't a good look. I mean, I don't think anybody hates Baker Mayfield too much. He's riding high with the Bucs right now, but it's not a good look, and I think ultimately it derailed him. I think ultimately he was focused on that. I think he got caught up in the moment of, and the trash talk earlier in the week. Like, I mean, it is what it is. He's been doing that his whole career. So I don't think necessarily that affected him. I think it was when he got into the stadium and he had those interactions and he just kind of got more juiced up as people were talking trash to him, and he just kind of went back at them, and he just couldn't help himself. And I think he got so engorged in that, so engulfed in that I think it took away from what he is good at. And that's the playing with the chip on his shoulder. Like I think sometimes when that chip gets a little too big, it affects his ability to make rational decisions. It affects his ability to play within what he does extremely well. And he tries to take over the game sometimes when he doesn't need to. And that is what I think derailed his performance. He had an awful game. Okay. Going back to point number one on my takeaways, he had an awful game. And a lot of that was, I think he was distracted. I think he had gotten too worked up, too jacked up, too fired up, or whatever you want to call it. And he just could not function. And everyone's been to that in that mode. I've been in that mode myself. Every person listening to this has been in that mode where they've been so fired up, so gassed up, so whatever, that you want to prove somebody wrong so bad. Like you want something, it almost makes it more detrimental the harder you try. And that's what happened to Diego. It became crippling to him because he just kept trying harder and harder and harder. He was fighting for more yards, and the ball just got away from his body a little bit. Dude punched it out. He had a momentary lapse in ball security and paid the price for it. He tried to hero ball one into Eli Stowers. He paid the price for it. He tried to pull one on a 4th and 1 where all he had to do is probably give it, and Cedric Alexander probably gets the yard that they need on 4th down. He pulls it and just gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Again, like things that he normally thinks clearly on, he wasn't thinking clearly. And normally the chip that he plays with is it motivates him. it fires him up. It gets him into a great mental space, and it gets him to rally around his team. But I just think he was fighting against that all game long, right? Despite his best efforts to calm back down, like he just couldn't do it. And then he made the mistakes, and the crowd got on him even more, and it just kind of compounded as he went. And then he just got more and more frustrated. Like, he throws an errant pass, or he throws an interception, or he has a couple more turnover worthy plays that are almost interceptions. Like he just tries. It just felt like the harder he tried, the worse it was going to get for him, instead of just relaxing and just letting the game flow, just letting the game flow and just doing what he normally does. I think that's, he just got wrapped up into all that. And that's not going to be good moving forward. And will he learn from that? He probably will. His teammates hopefully will talk to him about it. Coach Lee will hopefully talk to him about it in public. He's, I'm not worried about it. I don't love that he grabbed his crotch. I don't like that at all. I think there's better ways to handle that. And I'm not saying that he is completely 100% at fault. I think the Bama student section was probably saying stuff to him as well. Like, there's this whole string of trash talking, and, trash talking to a certain degree is part of the sport. But I think those interactions were probably very bad, like very bad here. And then he grabs his crotch. That's not good either. So I don't like that. I wish he didn't do that. And because he had so much respect coming into this that I think that knocked it down a rung. And now, I think people got a really bad perception of who he is and who he actually is. And you ask any one of his teammates, they'll go to war for him any day of the week, because he believes in them and he talks trash on their behalf because nobody else will. And a lot of what he does is for them. But I think he got wrapped up in himself this past weekend. And I think that's where it kind of got derailed. So Diego will learn from that. I'm not worried about it, but he'll learn from that. Just don't grab your crotch, man. Just don't do that gesture, because that's not a good gesture, right? You can do the shush thing. You can whatever else you want to do is probably fine in that scenario. Like and then the whole thing with the whole thing that confused me was the whole practicing the victory formation thing. Like, why people got so upset about that, like how that's disrespectful. Like, he just part of his, it's just part of his mental, I guess his mental preparedness. Like it's just kind of what gets him fired up. Like, he's not directing it at anybody. He does it every game. He practices it, throws the ball up in the air, daps up his center, and then catches the ball and, hey, let's go. Like, it's just a way for him to get his guys fired up and get him juiced up. He's not. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's doing that at anybody. And so if you don't think that's okay, like, I just think you're being overly sensitive about that. But anyway. Against LSU, the goal is, I guess, to play within himself a little bit more. You're going to be at home, which is good. But, again, just play within yourself, and I think all will be good. But, again, I just need to say that piece on that. But I'll leave y'all with this. There is still everything out in front of you. You're 5-1. You're still ranked. All your goals are right there in front of you. Tackle this bye week. Take advantage of the opportunities you get in the bye week. Get some much needed rest, much needed decompression, and go attack next week and go get LSU. That's the best thing you can do. Just move on, put this game in the rear view, take the lessons with you, apply them, and then go beat LSU, and then go beat the rest of your schedule. And that's the only thing you can do moving forward now. I believe in this team. There's no sense of me going anywhere with this team. I'm still going to be just as confident with this group as I ever have been. But those are the things, those are the red flags now that exist. How do you handle them? We'll talk about that. We'll continue to unpack this all week and then get ready for LSU next week. But we'll do that. But until next time, anchor down. Peace.